Hello everyone and welcome to Tees Valley Sport's first ever podcast. My name is Mark and I'm going to be hosting the podcast this week, and I'm delighted to be joined by Mal Fitzgerald, the new Executive Director. How are you doing, Mal?
I'm good, thanks Mark. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, excited to get this little project on the go.
It is.
A new innovation for us.
It is, yes. And what better way to head into the weekend?
Exactly. So for people listening, I'm so happy that Mal's agreed to join us for this first podcast. Mal's been in the job since, if correct me if I'm wrong, Mal, was it the 1st December you started your job?
It was the 1st of December last year.
Fantastic. And how's the first month and a half been?
Well, as you can imagine, in the circumstances, starting any new job is a bit tricky. So not being able to meet the team in person and, have those kind of first formative meetings where everyone gets to know each other and really start to form as a group. But I think we've managed okay. We've had lots of Zoom meetings. We've had lots of coffee mornings. So far, so good, I think.
Brilliant. So just to get a bit of background on yourself, Mal, could you give us a little bit of background on your work and kind of what you've done in previous roles?
Yeah, so immediately before this job, I came from the local delivery pilot, which is called You've Got This. So that's been running for around about 4 years since its early development and into kind of deliverable action across Tees Valley. And that was a fantastic piece of work to be involved in and develop and to lead. Very innovative in the way it is trying to tackle inactivity across Redcar and Cleveland, Middlesbrough. Prior to that, I did a very short stint with Everyone Active. So I did a couple of years as their community engagement manager based over at Eston. And then before that, for the previous 20 years before that, which sounds like a ridiculous amount of time when I say it, I worked with Redcar and Cleveland Voluntary Development Agency. So for 14 years, I was the chief exec. And then the rest of the time, I was the kind of senior development officer. So really supporting voluntary and community sector organisations right across Redcar and Cleveland. And going even further back, my background was really in training and development.
Right.
So writing training programmes, delivering training programmes from everyone to people on youth employment schemes, right up to directors of departments in local authorities and chief executives. So yeah, it's a bit of a mixed bag, but thankfully that kind of mix of experiences brought me to Tees Valley Sport, and I'm really looking forward to kind of digging into the work with the rest of the team there.
That's great. So that's a bit of your work background. So let people know a little bit about you. So what about your physical activity and sport backgrounds? Did you do any sport growing up, or do you still involved in any sport?
I didn't really do that much sport in school or kind of even in primary school, mainly because I was quite an overweight child, and I did carry that kind of into adult life as well. And the only real sport I kind of got into in my late teens was boxing. Mainly because I was overweight, and it's no fun being an overweight kid really. So I kind of got into boxing, and that led me into kind of other combat sports like martial arts and kickboxing and a little bit of Aikido jiu-jitsu in there. But later on in life, I really found my kind of groove and my niche, and I took up Olympic weightlifting.
Oh wow.
Started in the early 80s when I worked in Manchester, and then I did it for a few years and then didn't go back to it for another 20 years, and then took it back up again as a kind of master's athlete. And still try to do that, whenever I have time. And obviously, over the last year, not having access to kind of all the right equipment and training environment, it's been a bit of a one I've had to put on hold at the moment. But
yeah, that's understandable.
I really enjoy.
Yeah. Oh, well, great to get a bit of background on yourself, Mal. So if you have a little bit of a shuffle over to kind of the role you've started at Tees Valley Sport. So obviously you've only been in the role just over 6 weeks now, but in terms of kind of the COVID response, obviously we're back onto another lockdown, and kind of what's the Tees Valley Sport kind of COVID response been so far?
Well, I think what I would say is obviously Tees Valley Sport has supported groups, volunteers, individual athletes, and a whole range of people during the lockdown, even prior to me arriving on the scene, I suppose. And I was particularly impressed by the way they mobilised information on the website so quickly,
Yeah.
the way they accessed funding from Sport England through the Inequalities Fund to really support groups that weren't traditionally kind of sport and physical activity groups, so really targeted at voluntary and community organisations who were working with really vulnerable people and, you know, in communities, or people who were on low incomes, or children and young people. And just the range of groups, new groups that they've been able to support has been absolutely tremendous, and really been impressed with that piece of work. But even, you know, providing regular updates on guidance, because let's be honest, it's been really confusing about what people can't do.
I still think people are a bit confused now. I don't think people really have a full understanding. So I think that's a really valid point you're making there, Mal.
Yeah, so it's really important for Tees Valley Sport as the active partnership for the Tees Valley to provide that really good quality content, really relevant and updated content, to ensure that people, you know, do know what's permissible and what isn't. And obviously it's been a really difficult time for things like community sports groups, because for a long time they weren't allowed to do anything. Then they kind of were allowed to do stuff which is socially distanced in small groups. And again, we've come back to the situation where those kind of groups are really struggling. And obviously, in terms of tackling an activity, what we don't want is people who were, you know, at least previously active in some way, shape or form to kind of, you know, go in the wrong direction.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It's really important for the organisation to continue to support people, whether it's, you know, through their community groups, whether it's through sports groups, or whether it's even just in their home. And at the moment, we're trying to really target parents who may be, you know, have children at home. So they're trying to homeschool, they're trying to work from home, and obviously they're trying to keep children active as well. So
yeah, of course,
not letting them be on screens so much and just wandering from kind of the iPad to TV and vice versa. So, you know, it's a really crucial role that Tees Valley Sport do that, either through social media or through webinars or other mediums that we've tried to develop in response to the kind of current situation.
That sounds fantastic. I mean, it's great to hear there's so much stuff going on. But I guess another question really for you, Mal, and this is probably a bit of a key one for you. What kind of is your vision and where you see Tees Valley Sport going? Obviously, I know it's obviously, it's not to put you on the spot, but being 6 weeks in the role, kind of where do you see things going? Obviously, when the perfect world, when we're allowed out of our house for more than an hour and whatnot, when we're allowed to go and see people, what kind of do you see the vision and the goals of Tees Valley Sport?
Well, I think, to be honest, the vision of Tees Valley Sport will carry on unaltered. You know, tackling inactivity has to be first and foremost our key priority. Yeah. And I think, you know, even before COVID-19 came along, we were really dealing with two pandemics. You know, inactivity is a pandemic. It's a global issue. You know, 1 in 6 deaths globally are as a result of inactivity. That's not small, and it's not a small issue. And there are a lot of societal issues, there are a lot of economic issues, and a lot of cultural issues that drive that inactivity. And then, you know, we've seen increasing rates of obesity, particularly in children and young people. So we're almost dealing with this kind of triple threat, really.
Yeah.
So, you know, Tees Valley Sport's role is going to become greater. Their mission is going to become more important. And the one thing that COVID-19 and the pandemic and the government's response has highlighted is just how important it is to stay healthy, to stay active. Absolutely. Not just for physical health, but for mental health, to keep you connected in with other people, to keep that social connection, to reduce isolation and all those kinds of issues. So, you know, staying fit and active for physical activity's sake and for physical health's sake is vital. You know, it helps your immunity, it helps you fight off infection and a whole host of other long-term conditions. But there are all of these other benefits that affect mental health and social status that are really, really important. So I can see Tees Valley Sport over the next 2 to 5 years working increasingly with a broader range of organisations, you know, really solidifying our relationships with voluntary and community sector organisations, looking at how we can support community sports groups in a very different way to enable them to carry on and build and develop, working with local authorities and health authorities to really identify all those, you know, health benefits and really identify the people who are kind of most vulnerable in our communities and how we can support them to be more active. but it's not something we can do on our own. You know, we're not completely delivery agents. We don't work in all of these communities. So what we really want to do is provide opportunity for organisations and agencies to collaborate, to really develop some of these solutions with communities. So they're not just doing stuff to people, we're doing it with people. So really kind of understanding what drives inactivity, what keeps people inactive, is going to be quite a big job for the organisation over the next 5 years. And then really working collaboratively with a whole range of organisations, whether it's a social housing provider or public health specialists or sport and physical activity groups, to really support people across the Tees Valley to just basically improve the quality of life.
Fantastic. I think it's obviously, by how you're talking, it sounds such an exciting time to be involved in Tees Valley Sport, obviously, especially with the Sport England strategy coming out on Tuesday, and you know, with you starting your role, it must be quite an exciting time for you, even with the global pandemic and having to work from home. It's, you know, you must be feeling pretty excited about everything.
It is, and to be honest, you know, someone of my age shouldn't really get this excited, but I really do, because all I just see is opportunity. And we've had a really terrible year, and it's been really tough on a lot of people. And you know, a lot of families have faced a lot of tragedy, a lot of hardship, whether it's economic and social. But I really want us to support communities. I genuinely think we are part of the solution, and we are part of the future where we can improve people's quality of life. And definitely Sport England's new strategy, really excited to see what that brings. We know that there's going to be more of a focus on local accountability and local flexibility, and that's really important for us, particularly in the Northeast, because no matter what happens nationally, whether it's social or economic or, you know, medical, the Northeast always seems to be disproportionately affected. You know, people in our communities always bear the brunt of whatever happens. And I really want us to be there to support the people in those communities, along with other agencies like the local authorities and health authorities, to be, as I said before, be kind of part of that solution and really contribute to that agenda. And there's a whole load of stuff in the new strategy that I think Tees Valley Sport is just in a prime position to really take that strategy and take a national strategy and really think carefully about how we deliver that locally in collaboration with some of our partners.
Fantastic. Well, Mal, I won't keep any longer. I'm sure you've got plenty of things to be cracking on with 6 weeks. Yeah, cup of tea and coffee is always an ideal finish to your afternoon. So yeah, just like to say a massive thank you, Mal, for your time for this afternoon. And just anyone listening, we are going to be doing these on a regular basis. So just please do subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. We will try and get them onto the website as well. We'll be advertising out onto our social media accounts. And just thanks very much for your time, Mal, and thanks everyone for listening.
No, that's been brilliant. Thanks very much, Mark. Thanks, everyone. Hope to see you all soon.
Thank you.